Before we get there, though, let's talk about draft night. So, obviously, we talked about it for me when I got drafted. Like when you said last time, we both made it, right?
Yeah, but I didn't get drafted.
Yeah, draft.
I
But
never
I'm saying
forget
on draft night, you go through that and undrafted, don't hear your name called, whatever, kind of unsure of what the next steps are. We have just so you have it, because I know you're usually pretty humble about things. It's just your makeup. We have the draft up here if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I see that.
Do we have any? I don't think any of those guys got their jerseys up.
I don't recognize about 80% of them
You
names.
don't?
No. But what I will say is this. I'm going to give y'all the American players. I'm going to give you scouts the Americans. How the fuck y'all end up in Europe without seeing me here? That's what I'm going to say. I give you the American guys. I understand. I give you the American players. How the fuck y'all end up all the way across that water without seeing me right in front of y'all face? But I appreciate you because that was probably the worst night and the best night of my life, all at once.
So when you walked out of that, obviously you talk about it. It's an unbelievable. Obviously it sucks for you, and you go home and you what do you say? Like what's next? What do I got to do? Like
man,
where's your head at?
I one night, you know what I'm saying? We had a draft party. One of my homeboys had put together a draft party for me. I was supposed to go to a party that night. Everybody showed up. I ain't go. You know what I'm saying? I was frustrated, you know what I'm saying? Probably embarrassed, you know what I'm saying? Upset. So instead
rightfully so.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that night.
First of all, rightfully so, not to cut you off, but I just read what you did at Florida.
Yeah.
And you won at Florida. It wasn't like you lost at Florida. We almost won a national championship.
Yeah, and I also had a coach that told me they was going to draft me if I was available for their pick.
Oh, so it lied.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah. I got to say, Nate McMillan, you know what you told me.
Ooh.
You told me after my workout with the Seattle Supersonics, you said, if you're there for our pick in the second round, we're going to take you. You took Reggie Evans. Shout out to Reggie Evans, another Florida boy. So it wasn't no beef between me and Reggie Evans, but I was looked in my eye, and I was told that I would be drafted.
And I can't say this like with certainty, but I got to imagine no one else on that board right there is getting their jersey retired. So I know we would talk about draft night and just the disappointment going through it. And as the draft was going on, obviously you're concerned. I'm shocked. But there's also another dude that we both know very, very well that knows a lot about basketball who's shocked as well. Talk about what he said and how that kind of impacted you.
Well, before we get to that, I know why you were shocked. You remember who I stayed with when I was working out for the draft?
Yeah.
You saw it firsthand, Killer.
Yeah, I did.
You know what I'm saying?
I saw it all.
Left Florida, came down, spent time with you early, prepared myself for the draft, was working out every day. So you saw it firsthand that, you know what I'm saying, I was capable. You know what I'm saying? You was somebody who I would come to all the time for advice just to understand what I needed to do and work on. But, man, I just remember that night, you know what I'm saying, like it was yesterday. And I remember watching, and I remember seeing Charles Barkley. Shout out Chuck, man. I remember seeing Charles Barkley saying, I'm shocked that Udonis Haslem hasn't been drafted. And for me, I think even in that moment, you know what I'm saying, that was a breath of fresh air. It lifted me up a little bit because when you have somebody like Charles Barkley, a Hall of Famer, you know what I'm saying, one of the top players that ever played the game, to speak your name and even know who you are on that particular night, I think that went a long way for me. But at that time, man, I was a little down, obviously, and just going through the things that I was going through, but that lifted me up instantly. You know what I mean? So shout out Chuck for that. He probably don't remember that, but I do.
And he's seen it all.
I don't forget nothing. Yeah, he's seen it all. Yes, he has seen it all. He's one of the best power forwards that ever played the game of basketball. So if somebody like that acknowledges you, you know what I'm saying, you appreciate it.
For sure. So go back to, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to hear the story. So draft night, you have one day. Where do you go from there?
Man, so that night I didn't get drafted, man. I was pissed off. I stayed home. I sat in the dark. And, my next thing was, okay, what's next? You know what I'm saying? I got on the phone with my agent. It was a couple opportunities to go some camps. There was a couple opportunities to go overseas. And I'd rather go overseas. I was like, the NBA. You know what I'm saying? At that time, I was like, fuck the NBA. I want to go overseas. And I went overseas. And the first thing I did was I gave myself one night. I gave myself one night to throw a pity party. I had a box of Black & Milds and a bottle of Hennessy. I smuggled that to Europe. I smuggled some Blacks and some Hennessy to Europe. And I gave myself one night to feel sorry for myself.
All the way to Europe?
All the way to France. And I gave myself one night, bro. I say when I wake up in the morning, it's time to get to it. I gave myself one night. I damn near smoked a whole box of Blacks and drunk a half a bottle of Hennessy.
And let me tell you something. We're going to throw up this photo of UD in college. I dropped this dude off at the airport. He looked like the dude on the left.
You remember that?
I do.
You remember that?
He looked like the dude on the left.
And the crazy thing is, Killer, is in that summer league, I averaged a double-double in that summer league.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I balled out in that summer league. And it just wasn't good enough. And people don't know I spent a lot of time in Atlanta that summer. And I was the last guy between me and Ira Newble. And they decided to go with a veteran, which, once again, you got to respect that.
No, for
and
sure.
I ended up having to go overseas. So, for me, when I went overseas, I had a list of mother that I just want to check off when
Yeah.
I come back. You know what
Who's
I'm
the
saying?
highest on that shit list? Do you remember?
Who was the highest on the shit list?
It's always fun to understand the shit list.
Yeah. Shit. Probably the league.
The whole league?
The whole fucking league. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could find a reason to be motivated.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm old school. I can make myself hate somebody.
So I drop him off looking like that. I pick him up looking like this. So I was like, okay, he's bought in. He's serious
Yeah.
about it. So you come back and you go into I'm guessing you go into their camp, right?
Yeah.